Hi, everybody. I hope your week went well. I just wanted to give you a bit of an update of what we're doing for the next 2 weeks. We're moving into the quantitative section, and there's quite a bit of information, and you're also going to get pretty heavy into doing some self-edits and writing your next section. So we've created this module as a 2-week module so that you have time to kind of absorb all the information, but also do the assignments that accompany this. So through your reading, there's a couple things that I wanted to highlight. The survey design, there's various types of validity, and the survey validity is slightly different than the experimental validity that you're going to look at in the second section of the chapter. One of the areas that I think does a really, really good job of explaining survey validity is in the article I posted for validity of surveys, section 1. There is this, show you, this little chart up top. So I'm highlighting that for you because I think it does a great job of explaining face validity, content validity, criterion, and construct validity. They're all slightly different from one another. Face validity is typically assessed looking at either expert opinion or the opinion of the participants that are being involved or using the instrument. Typically, especially with graduate level research, you use a panel of experts to take a look at your survey and give you just feedback on the face validity, that it's actually measuring what it's intended to measure. It's pretty common practice to do this as the first step before administering a survey. Next, we're looking at the content of that survey. So that's basically going question by question and examining the content and making sure that the content directly relates to what you're intending to measure. And that's usually examined by a group of experts as well. We then move on to the criterion validity, and that's typically compared to the gold standard. This means there has to be an existing gold standard out there. If there's an existing gold standard, normally we would just use that. So there's this question on why would you be comparing your results to a gold standard if there's already a survey instrument out there that is reliable and valid. But if you want to recreate the wheel, then you're going to compare it to the gold standard, and you'll be looking at criterion validity. Construct validity in your chapter and in the literature is something that is being examined more and more. And this is the ability for that instrument to relate to a predictable theory or a pattern. So what we're doing is this is when we're actually developing some type of new instrument, and we want to make sure that our tool is aligning with the theory that's existing in the literature. And this is more apt of what you'll be doing if you choose to do some type of survey research for your capstone project. We'll typically look at comparing it to what you're doing now, which is your review of literature, and making sure that it aligns with the theories that you've discovered. If there's something already out there and there's a great survey tool out there, then we'll typically use that survey tool that already exists, especially for your capstone projects, considering it's in a fairly condensed amount of time. So that's the survey validity pieces. Experimental validity, a little bit different. We are looking at threats to internal versus external validity. And I think your text does a pretty good job of explaining internal versus external. When we look at the internal validity, we're really looking at things that happen during our experiment. So maybe our participants are feeling like there's a bias, that we're treating the experimental group better than the control group, or maybe there's something going on with maturation and they get older if we're doing a longitudinal study. So that's things that are happening within our study. The external validity is our ability to take our results from the study and apply them to the external world. And sometimes we might have errors. So if our setting of our study is different than the setting that we're trying to apply this information to in the external world, we may not be able to apply that to the same groups. So for example, if we do our study in a laboratory setting and everything is controlled for, it might be difficult to apply those, that's my dog, Sorry. It might be difficult to apply those results to a game situation where various factors are not controlled for. So looking at those pieces for internal versus external validity of our experimental design. Let's see. The other thing that I did want to highlight is within subjects compared to between subjects designs. When we think about within subjects, we don't have two different groups. We just have one group of test subjects, and what we do is we typically test them pre-test, and then we test them post-test. And we call it within subjects because we're not comparing them to anybody else. We're comparing the results within each subject. A between subjects design is when we have two separate groups. So we have a control group and experimental group, and then we test the control group and we test the experimental group, and then we compare our results between these two groups. Those are very basic descriptions of our two different designs of within subjects versus between subjects. This is important to understand because once we start talking about statistical analysis, that'll help us determine what type of test we're going to use to analyze our data. So just make sure that you understand those differences as we move forward. Couple other things. So assignments this week, we're going to start off with a quiz that's due Wednesday at midnight. That is on all of your reading, so make sure that you do your reading, you understand it, take the quiz. The self-editing assignment. So what you're going to do for the self-editing assignment is there is a rubric already posted on Moodle, and you're going to take that and you're going to go through step by step by step exactly how it's described. When you do your edits, I'd like for you to open up your document, so your section 1, turn on your track changes, okay, so turn on your track changes, and then as you go through and do your edits, I don't want you to accept those changes yet. I want to see what edits that you've done. So on the right side of your screen, typically what happens is it shows your changes. I want to see those changes. I also want to see if you make comments to yourself of areas that may need to be expanded upon or things that might need a citation. I'd like to see you make comments to yourself so that when you go back to do your final draft, those areas are addressed. What I'll do is once you hand in that self-editing assignment, I will add to your edits. So please, please, please save this in a Word document. Don't save it in a PDF. I know some of you have been saving PDFs. This way I can open it up and then I can add on my own edits. If you are unable to do that, send me an email and we can set something up maybe in Google Docs or something like that so that we can go on and we can do a shared editing. But for now, Word document, keep the track changes, and make sure you save it after you make all those edits so that I can give you feedback as well. After the self-editing assignment, which is going to be due Sunday, you'll have a short discussion post. It's already up there, basically about how your experience has been so far. That discussion post, I want you to please keep it all in the same thread and respond to the person that posted prior to you, and actually anybody who posted prior to you, just as if we're standing around in a group talking. Kind of build off of each other's thoughts, see what has been successful for some, and maybe challenges for others, and provide some suggestions of things that might have helped you. This writing experience can be fairly difficult for folks, and sometimes it's really nice to exchange ideas and see what is working for other people because it really might help you out in the long run. I also encourage you that once the discussion post closes on Wednesday night, to just go back and read through and see what other folks are doing. So if you posted, early, go back and check it out. This is really designed, hopefully, to help you out and see where others are being successful and what's helping them. And then on Sunday, the following Sunday, your section 2 is going to be due. So hopefully through the experience of self-editing on section 1, you'll catch a few tips and stuff, and then as you write your section 2, it'll be kind of in a better place than what your section 1 was ended up. Section 2 for most of you is going to be your dependent variable. I know for others, when we did your outline, we decided to kind of change it up a little bit, and that's fine. As we write this paper and you search the literature, you might have to make some slight changes to each of your section in the direction that your paper heads. That's absolutely okay. I'd rather have you stay open-minded and make those adjustments rather than try to force a paper together that maybe doesn't fit very well with your topic. And as we move forward, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to shoot me an email. I'd be happy to set up a Skype meeting with you or a phone meeting. We can talk about your paper, the direction that you're headed, and we can kind of try to work out the kinks together. Other than that, have a great week and happy writing.